Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It has been 1 year. 1 year since the cessation of hostilities across the Blue Line gave way to near daily exchanges of fire. Exchanges of fire that ticked upwards in scale and scope. 1 year of warnings that the violence between Lebanon and Israel, as bad as it was, would only escalate into something much worse if not urgently addressed. And tragically, this is exactly what has transpired. In late September, unwritten rules related to mutual deterrence, a world of unstable equations of power and self-declared red lines simply evaporated as violence spiraled out of control. And today, Lebanon finds itself facing a conflict and a humanitarian crisis of catastrophic proportions. Now, as you know, this afternoon we are connecting from Beirut, and I can tell you without reservation that the situation is dire. Unrelenting bombardment is now part and parcel of daily life in Lebanon, with the latest blasts not even 30 minutes ago. Far too many people are paying an unimaginable price, with over 2,000 killed, many more wounded, and hundreds of thousands displaced. In just over 1 week, we saw the death toll of the month-long 2006 war surpassed. And in a moment, indeed, my colleague Imran will speak more about the devastating humanitarian consequences and ongoing efforts to respond to exponentially growing needs. Hezbollah, meanwhile, continues to launch rockets and missiles into Israel, preventing tens of thousands of Israelis from returning home. Now, it is clear that 7 October changed everything, including the threat perception in Israel. But what I want to stress today is that a continuation of the death and destruction we have seen so far cannot bring about safety or security. Yes, of course, it might lead to short-term tactical wins, but longer-term strategic gains will remain elusive. It is quite simple. The machinery of war does not and cannot address the underlying issues. Perhaps, these issues can be best summarized as a complex interplay of security sovereignty and territorial concerns. Now also, as history, including recent history, has shown us, violence only begets more violence. So the question then is, what can work? Now, firstly, there must be an immediate ceasefire or a pause to start with. This is the only way to ease the colossal human suffering that is happening right now. Importantly, a ceasefire or pause can also provide a window and thus some vital breathing room for diplomatic efforts to take hold and succeed. A rational discussion will not take place under fire. And let me once again express hope that Israel too will now be ready to add its support to the many calls and appeals that are out there. Also, it is incumbent on all of us, including member states, to redouble efforts and leverage every ounce of influence we have. That is, to utilize a window without further delay. Secondly, we need a realistic roadmap for the implementation by both sides of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701, and this must include clear implementation and enforcement mechanisms. At the end of the day, it is the lack or non-implementation even of Resolution 1701 over the past 18 years that led to today's harsh reality. And thirdly, in parallel, we need to see the Lebanese state come back into the equation. The government has been vocal in its support for a ceasefire, and the Lebanese government has indeed voiced its commitment to the full implementation of Resolution 1701, and rightly so. But I cannot overstate, a united, empowered, and equipped Lebanese state will prove critical. Now, in conclusion, people on both sides of the Blue Line are suffering. In Lebanon, people are dying, displaced, or living in a state of all-consuming fear. Citizens in northern Israel also fear for their safety, still yearning to go home 1 year on from the horrific October 7 attack. Meanwhile, people across the region and the wider world are holding their breath, warning of the disastrous consequences of an even greater regional conflagration. Now, clearly, these times are not normal. The situation is scary and unsettling, and we cannot become desensitized. We cannot accept this as the new normal. To do so risks sleepwalking into the abyss. In other words, fire must cease. We need a window, and we need it now. We need a path back to the negotiation table, a table where the interests of all parties can be aired and considered, where sustainable solutions can be found and agreed upon. Again, the time to cease fire is now. Too much is at stake to do anything less. Thank you.